Okay, so we are going to go over then today Xero Go. So Xero Go is the new software. Now, I know that I've spoken to some of you directly about this, and we've been putting lots on our socials recently. Some of you might have seen the live that we did and a quick video explaining just exactly how this works. So with Xero Go, this is aimed at small sole traders. So this is not VAT registered. And this is for people that want to keep all of their records digitally. Now, in a couple of years' time, this is going to be mandatory. So it is going to be something that people are going to have to do. So just a couple of facts for you first and foremost. So currently there are 4 million sole traders keeping records on paper or on some sort of other computerized document. So Excel, we've seen some on Word documents, and some do still keep things on paper. Now, from 2026, April 2026, self-employed individuals and landlords with an income of more than £50,000 will be required to keep digital records and then also provide quarterly updates on their income and expenditure to HMRC. Now, at the moment, as you know, you do one tax return at the end of the financial year, and any payment is due by the 31st of January. Now, it is said at the moment that any payment will still be due by the 31st of January, but you will be required to do quarterly updates. Now, this is something that some aren't looking forward to, and this is also something that some people are looking forward to, because it means that each quarter you're going to be able to keep on top of everything a bit more ongoing, and it will just keep everything flowing nicely there. Those people with an income of between 30,000 and 50,000 won't need to do this until April 2027. So they are staging it. Now, as I say, this is the rules as they stand at the moment, but we all know HMRC and we all know how this goes. So chances are it could change again, but we will always be keeping on top of these things, and we will post everything on our socials. Currently, Xero Go is able to submit tax returns from the software. So this is something that people will be able to do once you're actually using the software. Now, you can add an accountant or bookkeeper to the software as well, and they will be able to help you do this. So a couple of points to mention: they are constantly developing the software. There are changes that happen all the time. This is with all different software. Xero Go is a very new software. They had the beta stage that they've run through, and they are constantly changing things. There is a change that they're in the process of doing at the moment, which I'll mention when we get to that bit. So if there is something that I can't answer today, I will find out for you. We've got a very good working relationship with our Xero account manager, and any questions that we fire over, they come to us very quickly with those. So if I can't answer that today, I will let you know. So what is Xero Go? So Xero Go is a on-the-go business tracking app. It is a mobile device. As bookkeepers and accountants, we do get access to a desktop version, but for you, it's all controlled via your mobile or via the iPad, so it is all on an app. The idea from their point of view is to work smarter, not harder. So it will save time, and it will give you the ability to keep on top of things regularly. So who is it for? Now, this is aimed at small sole traders, landlords with 1 to 2 properties. I have actually got someone on there that have got 3 properties, and it works really well for them. Freelancers, and as already mentioned, this is for not VAT registered businesses. So just a quick poll if you did want to answer it. We were just wondering what your business type is. So you might see on your screen now just a quick poll. If you did fancy answering that, that'll just give us a really good idea of what sort of businesses people are looking at the moment. So I can see most at the moment are all sole traders and freelancer. Okay. Perfect. So the majority sole traders, and we've also got a freelancer as well. Okay, lovely. Thank you for answering that. Okay, so the benefits of using Xero Go or any other software, to be honest. It will help you save money on bookkeeping and accountancy fees. Now, that's not trying to do ourselves out of business at all, but it does mean that obviously it's something that you will very easily be able to do yourself. Now, people do obviously need to have some sort of knowledge on what they're doing with regards to categorizing and with regards to how the different softwares work and where you're meant to be putting the different expenses. When it does come down to that, that is where we can help and assist with those sorts of things. And that is where it's really helpful to be able to add your bookkeeper or accountant to the software. Xero Go's got receipt capture, again, like a lot of other software do, so they have incorporated this into Xero Go. It means that you'll be able to take a picture of the receipt and it will capture the details within that receipt. It will put in who the receipt's from, the date and the amount, and at most you'll just need to categorize it. Now, sometimes it can take a little while to do that. So again, as you'll see in a little while, you can manually enter the details as well by using your receipt. You can also send invoices. Now, the good thing about Xero Go that actually I've been quite impressed about is the fact that if you add the invoice add-on, it's $4.99 a month, and you get unlimited invoices. Now, this I thought was a really good thing. With the starter subscription, again, I'll mention the other subscriptions of Xero a bit later. The starter subscription, which is the smaller one out of the upper tiered sort of subscriptions that are out there, you can only send up to 20 invoices. So to be able to send unlimited on this version of the software, in our opinion, is a great thing. And it's going to be a real benefit. And even though this is their micro software, you can also connect a payment service. Now, at the moment, that payment service is just Stripe. So Stripe is the only one that will currently work, but you can connect a payment service. So it does mean if you send an invoice, people can click the button and make a payment, which is proven to show that it does increase the time that you actually receive your payments in as well. And they've got reporting. Now, when I say reporting, they have used that term, in my opinion, quite loosely. It does show a quick overview of how much you've taken, how much you've spent, and what your sort of profit and loss is. It doesn't give you the ability to run full reports like, again, the bigger versions of the software do. So these next few slides are all about how to set up Xero Go. Now, this is what Nivi's going to put a copy of this in the chat box for you. So please feel free to download that, but we will also follow up and send this to you all via email. So if you're on a phone or if you haven't got the facility to do that at the moment, please don't worry, we will follow that up. Now, we have already done this on the mobile so that we've got this ready, but it is as easy as... Step 1, you just need to download the app on the App Store or on Google Play. Step 2, you want to sign up. And step 3, you want to enter your details and click sign up. Next, you will get an email that you'll just have to confirm and verify. And then you can go back to the app and log in. It will then ask you just for a couple of details about your business. So business name, location, and the time zone. And finally, it'll ask you what industry you're in. As with many apps, it'll also then ask you which login option you would like to do. I know I always select the Face ID, but it does give you a few different options there as to how to do that. So in essence, once you've downloaded the app, if you simply follow the instructions that appear on your screen, you can't go wrong. But as I say, we will send you the PDF anyway, so you've got that documented. On the PDF, it also includes how to invite your accountant to Xero Go. So as already mentioned, to be able to invite your bookkeeper or accountant, there's two things. So firstly, when they are allowing to be able to actually access tax returns from the system, and when we can actually file them from Xero Go, at first, what was said, and whether they keep this the same because the goalpost has moved with regard to the date, at first they were saying that only a bookkeeper or accountant could physically submit that return. They are going to be introducing it so that you can do that yourself, but as soon as they do that, obviously we'll be able to keep you updated. So to invite your accountant or bookkeeper to Xero Go, what you need to do is step 1, click more, which is down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Then click invite your accountant. And then you want to put the email address of your accountant. Now, the one thing that I would mention about this is, please, before you go and do that, make sure that you ask your bookkeeper or accountant, A, if they already use Xero, and B, if they do, what email address they would like you to use. Now, the only reason this is important is, depending on what email address they use, they may already have an email that they associate with Xero. They will want you to use that same email address so they can quickly flip between companies. Once you've done that, they will receive an email that will state that you would like to invite them to use their software, and then they can accept that. Once they're accepted, they will be able to view everything you're doing on the desktop version. Now, only we as bookkeepers and accountants have access to the desktop version, but it does mean that if you get yourselves in a little bit of a pickle or you get stuck with anything, we can access that and provide any support. And finally, with regards to the app, how to add that invoicing option. So there are a lot of people that do send invoices. There are also people that don't, which won't need this option, which is why Xero Go have decided to do the two separate costs, one for the subscription and one for the invoicing. So to set this up, what you want to do, it is just two simple steps for this one. On the home screen, under the heading Getting Started, you can do Start Free Trial. Now, that will give you a 30-day free trial in which you can decide whether this is something that you would like to use moving forwards. Now, it will automatically renew. So if you do this and you are not sure whether you will use the invoicing option or whether this really will apply to you, my suggestion would be just to set a reminder in your calendar for a month's time, just so that you can actually cancel that invoicing subscription if you want to, because otherwise it will automatically renew. Once you have subscribed and connected your payment method, obviously it won't take anything initially. That will just be if it is left to renew. Now, next, we're going to actually take a look on the app. So I'm just going to connect this to the mobile so that you can actually have a look at exactly how the app works for you. Okay. So we've got the app set up here for Xero Go. So if we go into Xero Go, we have set this up for a fictitious company, and this is for a company we are calling Belinda's Bakes. So she set up a business and sells cupcakes, brownies, all those yummy goods that half of us try to avoid for half of the year. Now, you can see on the dashboard at the moment, we have literally entered one item on there just to show. At the top, you have the section that says your profit for February 2023. Now, this is where it will give you a very quick rundown of how your business is doing. Now, because we're in February, you can see that the colours on the February section are green and purple, and this does show your income and your expenses. If you want to see January, you can simply click on the January section. That will tell you how you've done, and the same for all the different months. In the top right-hand corner, there's the little calendar symbol. If we click on that calendar symbol, it will ask you what period you want to look at. So it will be able to create this little profit report for you for different time periods, so you can change that. It will also give you a very quick view on there at the outstanding invoices. So for any invoices that you have sent, if you use that option, it will show you those invoices on there. And it will give you a breakdown as to whether those invoices are paid or whether they are currently unpaid. And if we scroll down at the bottom, it will also show you any expenses. Now, there's not a lot entered on here at the moment because obviously we wanted to demo just exactly how to do these. So now that we've got Xero Go set up and we've got everything in here, what we want to do is with the invoice option, because we have added this as a trial, you'll be able to see that when we click plus in the bottom of the screen, we have 3 different options. Now, you will still have those options, but if you haven't added the invoice option, when you click on invoice, it will prompt you to do so, and it will ask you if you do want to go ahead and add that. Now, if I go onto that option, so we go onto invoice, it's already set up on here. Now, we can decide who we're sending the invoice to. the invoice number will always run in sequence. So ultimately, you don't want to have any invoice numbers that are missing. This does flag up as questions with HMRC. They wonder why there's invoice numbers missing. So the easiest thing if you're going to use this option is just let it create the next invoice number in a sequence. The date will always default to today's date. And the due date you can set within your settings. Now, you can go back to the settings, which we'll go to have a look at. But when you do initially set up the invoicing options, it will ask you all these questions, and it will also give you the option to change the style of your invoice as well. So you can actually change which color you want, which rather excited me, I must admit. You can add notes into your invoice, and then you can add items. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a look at this, and we're going to set this up. So we've got a Jane Smith within our contacts, but if you wanted to add a new contact, we can do this here. So we're going to send an invoice to Laura Brown, and we want to just click add. Now this will ask for Laura's email address. So we'll just put that in here. Spell that right, there we go. And we can click done. If we click save in the top right hand corner, that has now entered Laura's details in. That's who we're sending the invoice to. Now further down here, if we click add an item, we can see that there's two different options. So you can either add a new item or you can add them from your products and services. Now products and services, we can also create those. So once we've run through this invoice, I will show you how to add some more. But for the moment, if we add a new item, then in here we can add, so we'll do some cupcakes. If you want to put a description in, you can, and we can put the price. You can also change the quantity. So let's say that she sold cupcakes in a box of 5 and they wanted 2 boxes. You can put in the cost of £10, and if you put quantity 2, it will change it to 20. And in type of income, we have sales or other revenue. So we're going to select sales. Now at the bottom, you do have the option to save the item to products and services. So it does give you that option. So as you're going through, if you are a company that does sell the same thing over and over again, and it is repeated, then you can do that there. And then we can click save. Now, once that's saved, this hasn't actually gone anywhere yet. What we want to do is click send or save. You can preview the invoice. So if you click preview, you will see exactly what they are going to receive. Now you can see from this, it does show that we've already put the logo on there, which again does come up in the settings. We've already got the address of the company and the telephone number. And we've chosen in this instance that we've picked a sort of red colouring for the invoice. As I say, there's lots of different ones, but it will document everything like this. So you can have a look and just check that you're happy with that before you send it. Now, if we go to send or save, we then have the choice to send that invoice. So if you click send invoice, it automatically saves it if you haven't already. It will give you your email template on there, and you can then click send invoice. That invoice is now sent and added to your list. And as you can see, we can now see that in February, there are 2 invoices on there. One which has been sent, and it shows that the due date is in 7 days' time, and one that was sent on the 17th of February, and it was also paid. Now, once you receive a payment for this invoice, you can simply, if I go back to the home section, because this is normally where you will arrive, you can simply click on see all invoices, which will take you back to that list where we were. You can click on the invoice. So let's click on Laura's invoice. And at the bottom, you can click on mark as paid. Now, once you click on mark as paid, it will default to today, assuming that you've seen that payment today and that you'd like to mark it as paid today. But you can pick a custom date, and you can then decide which date you would like to mark that invoice as paid from. So we'll leave it as today. If we click done, that now knows that you've been paid. And if we go back, we can see that both of those have now been updated. So both have got a green tick and it knows that that money has been received from your customer. Now, to add more contacts, if you had a few people that you wanted to send invoices to and actually you wanted to add them as contacts before creating their invoice, what you can do is in the bottom right-hand corner, you can click More, and that will give you some different options. You've got contacts at the top. So when you go into that option, you can then click Add New in the top right-hand side, and you can do the same as what we did before. As you can see, they do keep the layout the same so that it is familiar for everyone. And if I just go back, you've also got the other options there. So you've got Invite Your Accountant. That's where we were talking about before, that you can add your accountant in there and it will ask you to enter. Now, we've already added ourselves on there. So if you did add someone and you wanted to disconnect them, then you can do that. Jane, I just saw your question there. With regards to adding contacts, you do unfortunately at the moment have to add them manually, but you can copy and paste if you're doing it on your phone. So at least you can copy and paste emails and stuff. Now, within your settings, there are quite a few settings in here. Now, within your account settings and business details, this is the initial information that you entered when setting up the app. On invoicing, this is where you have got the customize your invoice. So within here, you've got the option to change your logo. So if you did update your logo at any point, you can change that. You can select the color. And as you can see, there are a variety of different colors here that you can choose from. As you can imagine, I'd probably go for green. There's also then the option to select the font. So you can even select from a choice of these 5 fonts. It is just those 5 available, but the fact you can change and choose that I thought was quite impressive for this software. Once you've done that, if you do make any changes, you can click Save, and then you know that your invoice is personalized to you and your business. And just down here, we have the other settings that you normally find on an app anyway. So you've got the different security settings. If you did want to change the way you log in, then you can do that as well. With the bank reconciliation side of things, so I've made a note to mention it at the end. Bank feeds is one thing that Xero Go are actually looking at. So when it comes down to reconciling payments, on the larger versions of Xero at the moment, some of you may know that there is the function to have bank feeds. Now, with the bank feeds, it does mean it will automatically pull in transactions from your bank, and you can then match those to payments. Now, at the moment, with this being the mini version, they haven't got that function, but quite a lot of us have asked them if that would be a possibility, because we, as well as clients, feel like it would be really actually quite beneficial to have that. So they are in the middle of developing that at the moment. It looks like if they do, there will be a option to add this on, but there will be a payment for it. So when it comes to adding all the different sections on, depending what type of business you are running and how many transactions you do have, this is where actually sometimes it might be worth thinking, instead of the Xero Go option and then paying for invoices and the bank feed, it might be that you decide actually to go to the starter subscription instead, which gives you the mobile and the desktop version. But that is something that we can cover in the one-to-one follow-ups as well. Now, on the app, so moving on to the products and services, in the settings here under invoicing, we also have products and services. So in here, we can see that there are 3 different items that we have currently added to that section. Now, with the 3 that we have added to that section, we can add more, and we can add those extra items either by adding a new one here in the products and services section, or as you've already seen, straight from the invoice. So doing things straight from the invoice does mean that you haven't got to update settings beforehand. In my opinion, I think that that is the most straightforward way of doing it. But at the same time, if you're setting Xero Go up for the first time and you've already got a list of products and services that you either provide or sell, it might be something that actually you'd like to sit down, spend an hour setting the app up and actually adding all those products and services right from the beginning, so that you know when it comes to do an invoice, you can select those at the time. Now, If we go back to the home screen, I'm just going to show you on here that although we've just sent an invoice, it is also very easy to be able to enter any income without having the invoice option. Some people don't send invoices. In fact, a lot of people don't send invoices, but when they do receive payment, they are going to need to record this. So if this is the option, what you want to do is click the plus in the middle of the screen at the bottom, and then you want to click on income at the bottom instead of invoice. This will purely open up a box here, so we can mark on here. So let's just say she's received £150. Again, type of income is exactly the same as when you send the invoice. So this will be sales. Other revenue is generally used for things like grants or interest received, things like that. So if it is to do with your business sales, you'll always want to use the sales code on there. Date received, again, it always defaults to today, but you have the option to change this and select whichever date it is that you have received that income. So let's just say it was the 8th of February. Description. If you want to put a description in here, you can, but you don't have to. So this could be a cake making course. And who is it from? Again, we have the option to select a customer that's already saved, or we can start typing in that box to add a new contact at that point. So you don't have to go backwards and forwards to add things, go back. You can do everything from one screen, which again, I think they've set up really well on here. Now, at the bottom, you've got the attach file section. So for those of you who already use Xero or have already played with a version of Xero, you'll know that one thing you can do is attach files to a lot of things on Xero. Now, the fact that they've put on here the attach file on this Xero Go section, I think is great. You can attach anything on here. So whether you wanted to attach things like any costs you might have incurred that day, so that you can look back and have a look to see that, yes, you received £150, but it might have cost you £50 to hire out a venue, for example. You might just want to put a picture on there. You can also put a picture if you want. You can take a screenshot of your bank transaction if you wanted to do that, that can contain some further details. Anything that you want to, you can attach that on there by simply taking a photo on your phone. Now, once you've done that, you can click save. That income is saved. So as you can see, it's very straightforward. And at the moment, without the use of bank feeds, it will be very easy to sit with your bank statement and enter these. Now, again, if you have got hundreds of transactions each month, then actually you might find that this is going to take you far longer than if you had a higher up level of Xero, which has the bank feeds and the ability to have automatic rules. Again, I'll touch on that at the end of this webinar. So if we go back to home, now you'll see that there's a significant difference on here. So we can now see that if we click on February, we've now got the income. Oh, let me just go back on here. Here we go. So now that we're on here on February, we can see that today we received £10 from Laura Brown. We can see on the 17th of February, we received £35 from Jane Smith. And we've also got an income recorded from Laura Brown of £150. Now you'll see there are the different symbols on the screen. So you will be able to see whether it is an invoice sent or whether it was an income, which that is their little wallet symbol. If you can't tell what they've put on there. So we've gone through products and services, we've gone through adding income, and we've gone through sending invoices. So obviously the other part of a business are the expenses. Now, again, this is extremely easy on here. The one thing we have found when playing around with this app is that sometimes the data capture has been taking a little while. It does work, but sometimes it's taken a little while. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to show you, first of all, how we can record an expense manually. So again, just like we did before, on the plus button in the middle, we can click that and we can click expense. But if I just get rid of that for a second, on this home screen, you can also see at the bottom, there is also the option to add expense there. From the home screen, you can do everything that you need to do with regards to your income and your expenses. But if you're on any other screen, you can use that plus button in the middle of the screen at the bottom. So if we add a expense, sorry about the wobbliness, I have got a receipt just here. Now, as you'll see, as we hover over it, it does pick up the lines of the receipt. So if I press to take the picture of that, that will now show you the section that it has already picked up. If you want to crop that, you can. And then you can click scan. Now, before I click scan, you can see there is the add manually button at the bottom as well. So if you wanted to actually add this information manually rather than let it scan, you can click add manually and you can manually enter them. Now, for this example, I'm just going to click scan and you'll see that it is now scanning receipt details. Now, whilst it is doing that, what I'm going to do is we're just going to do another expense, but I will show you the manual adding of that. So again, we'll go to expense and I've got another trusty receipt here. So we can take a picture, we can click crop, and if we click add manually, now the amount on the receipt was £3.35. The date of this receipt was the 3rd of February. We've spent this at the post office. So again, like before, we can add this as a new contact at the time. So we'll add post office and save. Description, you don't need to. This one's pretty self-explanatory anyway. And then category. Now in category, you have a little list here of different categories that you can use. So you can see on here that you've got separate codes for phone, internet and office supplies. You've got rent, rates and insurance, repairs and maintenance, travel and motor vehicle expenses and wages. Now, the one thing that they do mention with Xero Go is the fact that if you have staff, this is something that they advise against, but only because they're talking about not being able to run payroll through it. So you would need that as a separate service. As you can see, you can still put wages on here though, so that is fine. But at the same time, where they have aimed this at small sole traders, they are also making the assumption that actually people aren't going to have staff. But this is something, again, that we can sort of cover in there. You've also got bank fees, consulting and accounting, cost of goods sold. So we're going to have a look on here. So let's, for the moment, we'll put this to office supplies. And you can see at the bottom here, there is a picture of that receipt. That is the full receipt. This just shows a very quick section of it. So once we click save, not only has that saved that expense within the app, so it has recorded your cost, it has also put the picture on there. Now, back on this main screen, we can see that the receipt we took a photo of previously is saying some details are missing. So it is very clear. If it can't pick up details, it won't just enter it and guess. It will make sure that you put that on there. So if we click on new expense, it tells us at the top that there are some details missing. So we can see spent at is missing on here. So if we type SO, we can add that in and save the contact. We don't actually have to put a description in this one, but we can see that it has picked up that it's travel and motor vehicle expenses. So we can click save, and that's now saved that. You can now see back on the home screen, there's nothing that flags up with any errors. Caroline, at the moment, you can't add more categories. Again, that is something that they're working on. And I did ask that question beforehand to the developers. It is something that they're working on at the moment. So there will be the option at some point. When that is, I'm honestly not sure. And Jane, with regards to Barclaycard, the way that this app is set up at the moment is that rather than it differentiating between different bank accounts, trading as a sole trader or a freelancer, because this isn't aimed at limited companies, all the income and expenses sort of falls within one pot. So it does just take an amalgamation of all of your income and all of your expense. Now, whilst there's no bank feed, it would just be a simple case of sitting with bank statement, credit card statement. It could be, we know that there's a lot of people that still use personal bank accounts for business. So they've got business and personal. Obviously, they would go through those and just pick out the business expenses to enter. But everything would be entered the same. When they have got the ability to do bank feeds, apparently they will have the function to add separate bank feeds, in which case you'll be able to differentiate between different accounts used. So now we can see that adding an expense on there is nice and easy as well. So this does now cover the invoicing, the expenses. You can enter all of your details on here. Now, it does mean that you can enter, Jen, with the PayPal payment exactly the same as the manual payments. What you would want to look at doing, because you have fees associated, you would want to put, let's just pretend that any of you have charged £120 for a product or a service. You've been paid via PayPal and £2 of that ends up being fees. You would want to add your income as £120, and then you would do an expense for £2. So you would end up equating the entire details. Any direct debits that are done, you would need to just enter manually. Everything gets entered manually at this stage. Once bank feeds are an option, you will be able to set up rules. So for anything that is a regular payment, you'll be able to set up a rule for. What I am just going to do is switch this back now onto the other screen. Okay. There we go. So we've gone through the main parts of Xero Go and exactly how it works. The crux of it is that you want to make sure that you have entered all of your income and that you have entered all of your expenses. Bookkeepers and accountants can import a bank statement. Now, the one thing that isn't shown at the moment is how that will actually appear from the mobile device. This is something that, again, they're testing, and it is a very new option to even be able to do that. Now, we were able to import a bank statement, but the connectivity at the time wasn't quite showing up on the mobile device. So this is something that I reported back to them to say that we imported a bank statement on the desktop version as a bookkeeper, but we could not see it on their mobile device. So the bank feed side of things is definitely the thing that they're working on at present. Every single update that we get, we will be putting things on our social media. So if you don't follow us already, it might be an idea to, just so that you can keep up with those updates, because everything that we hear that's new to do with especially this software, we know that one of the things that's coming up is obviously the beginning of the next tax year. So hence why we're doing this now, because it's quite good timing for people that do want to change the way that they're currently doing things. So about Xero Go then. So the important bits. At the moment, it is free of charge to use until the end of March. Again, another reason we thought doing this now would be good, because it gives people the opportunity to have a play around with it. If you are one of those people that hasn't actually done any of the sort of bookkeeping or record keeping from April 2022, and once the year is up, then you can sit and have a look through there, then it's something that you might want to download this and then start that 22 to 23 year to see how you get on. If it doesn't suit you, it might be that you need a more complex version, which is something that we're happy to go through. One of the things that is good is that they're costing, whereas normally they put all their costs on their website and they're all plus VAT, because this is aimed at non-VAT registered small sole traders, they've put all of theirs including VAT. So it is £4 a month from the 1st of April onwards. And then if you need the invoicing add-on, it's £4.99 per month. As you can see, it is really quick to be able to send an invoice, and it looks really professional as well. I'm quite impressed at how they've done the invoice layout. So for £4.99 a month with unlimited invoices, I think for a lot of you that do send lots of invoices for the sake of £5, I think it's a really good option to save you a lot of time. Now, You would need to then upgrade your Xero if you do employ someone. As I say, that is mainly to do with the payroll side of things and the fact of journaling, and the accountants in the room will know that side of things is going to be very difficult with Xero Go. Yes, it will give your income and expenses, but it's not so easy to handle that side of things. And also if you become VAT registered. So this is not for obviously VAT registered companies. So it would be something that you would need to change if that was to come up. If you do need a more complex version of Xero, obviously we can discuss the different ones that are available, but we do also provide one-to-one Xero training sessions. They're from 2 hours to 6 hours, and they are done on a time spent basis, and we can literally cover anything that you need to within that time. We used to do it quite structured on our website. We have got suggestions of what we can go over, but now we can just tailor it completely so that you know exactly what you're doing there. Now, if you did need to use a more complex version, it's quite a good time at the moment because they have got an offer on, and their offer is 50% off for the first 3 months. Now, the majority of people that we look after are on the standard version. Now, that screenshot is their offer price. So normally their prices are £14 a month, and these are all plus VAT. Normally it's £14 a month for the starter subscription. That one does have a limit of up to 20 invoices. The standard is normally £28 a month plus VAT. That doesn't have a limit. And as I say, that is the one that we do use for most clients. And the premium one, to be honest, is only really needed if you deal with foreign currency. That one is normally £36 a month. So if after our sort of one-to-one check-in, you feel that actually you might need a more advanced subscription, again, I can go through the different options with you. These details are all on their website as well, so you can see what's included with each one. But there is also a 50% off for the first 3 months. After that period, we do get a small discount on our Xero subscriptions. So we do have a few people that have asked us to hold their Xero subscription for them, and we just charge them monthly for that subscription just to save a few pounds here and there. And finally, just a reminder then, not to forget to book the 30-minute one-to-one follow-up. So these do need to be booked and used by the 31st of March. Again, the point of doing that is so that you are ready for the new tax year if you're going to want to look at doing any changes. And also, if you did feel like giving us a review at all, we would really appreciate it. Not only so that we know how we've done in terms of the information that's been provided and how it's gone, but also so other people can see what the experience has been. So we will send the in our follow-up email, we will just pop a little Google review link in there. So if anyone did feel like doing that, or if you want to email us back with any pointers or comments, that would be really good. And we do just have one last poll, if you didn't mind, and then we can do a bit of a Q&A here for you. So if I just go back to the next poll. Here we go. And this is just on how you feel about using Xero Go after this demo. So I know it's been a very quick run, but we were just interested to see whether you feel very confident enough, but obviously the one-to-one is going to help, a bit overwhelmed and obviously not sure where to start, or whether actually this just isn't really for you right now. It's always good to get some feedback and just see where people sit there. And again, we can also go over this in the one-to-ones. Okay, that is great. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, so if anyone would like to unmute themselves and ask any questions, please feel free, because I know it's almost a little bit of a bombardment almost, isn't it? So what I'll do, I'm just going to stop sharing the screen. There we go. Okay, I'm just double checking the chat box here as well. I know there was one that came up. Simon, you asked, does the app support mileage tracking, or is that something that's planned if not currently supported? So at the moment for Xero Go, we haven't heard of any plans to have any integrations. Normally with mileage tracking and things like that, there are apps like Mile IQ, things like that people can use an external app, and you can actually integrate that with Xero. That would need to be one of the more advanced software subscriptions. So either the starter or the standard would be able to do that. They haven't got any talks of doing that at the moment because they want to keep this one as a more basic, sort of more simplistic version. Jen, I can see you unmuted yourself. Did you have any a question?
Yeah, I basically collect income through PayPal using my website as the back-end shop, really. I can download like reports of all the, do I have to enter each transaction manually, or can I download it like you were saying, like a bank statement?
Yeah, so with this small version, so the one thing that the HMRC like to see is transactions itemized. But what you could do, as you saw on the demo, when you actually add that income, you have the option to add an attachment. So what you could quite easily do is, if you save that report from PayPal, so if you had it on your phone, you can take a screenshot, or you could, WhatsApp it to yourself, or if you've got that on your phone, or even if you've got a printed version of it, you can take a photo of. You could enter the income as the gross amount, so before the fees have come off, and you could put the attachment of that on there. Add that as an image, and then you can do the expense using the fees. So the fees that you've been charged for all of those income, you can then add as one expense, as a bank fee effectively. And then again, you can take a picture of that report just so that you've got the supporting evidence to go alongside those two figures.
Yeah, that makes sense, because basically most of my classes are exactly the same amount. So it's not each transaction is a different amount. It's just boom. Every class costs a certain amount.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the reason why the attachment bit is quite good is because actually you can simplify the way that you enter things, because the attachment is the evidence that goes along with that. So at least if there was any sort of inspection or investigation, they can see. They might turn around and say that actually it's going to be, better to itemize. But if you've got that one lump sum and actually they can see the itemization on a report, that has been good enough so far.
Great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Louise, can I ask you a quick question about if you have multiple income streams? Because I notice you nominate your business at the beginning, and with things like being a landlord and being self-employed, when you report into the current system manually, they're very different boxes with very different allowances. Does this negate Xero Go? Does that mean that you have to have one form of income?
So what I will do, that's a very good question, Sam. I'm going to ask them with regards to, because normally if you had different income streams and it was very differentiated, you would normally have to have a different sort of subscription for each business, for want of a better word, so that everything's kept separately. Of course, at the end of the year with your tax return, all your figures are amalgamated. But I will ask them as to whether there is a way, because as you say, it's more the business description at the beginning kind of does default to one business. So I'm going to make a note of that one, and I'll make sure that we ask that question, and I'll let you know.
It's also because this is self-assessment, it's very different to VAT, because you're not reporting a business, you're reporting as an individual.
Yes.
So people have like income from bank interest, things like that. So this is one of the things I'm really struggling with any form of Xero, as to how that information is going to come out of the other end. And therefore how you get, it's even things like charitable donations you put in. So there's a whole heap of questions on that, which I'm sure they may not even have answers for yet.
Yeah, so on the more advanced Xero subscriptions, like the charitable donations, for example, there's already codes set up for things like that. Again, it's kind of a bit of a more complex version, I should probably put it, but I'm going to ask that question to them, because that's a really good question and something that I think is going to affect quite a lot of people, so it'll be good to have the answer for that one.
Also, do you know if the integrated image capture is going to be taken into standard? Because as I understand it at the minute, I'm using HubDoc to do that, and that's a third party, and it's just an added level of complication, really.
Yeah, so at the moment they haven't got any integration such as that, because when they very first set up the software, it was more so that everything's done manually. I think it's more that because they've been bombarded, like people like us, saying actually a bank feed would be really helpful first and foremost. I think eventually they'll probably end up adding some extras in there. But at the same time, I think their point of view at the moment is that Xero Go is their sort of base level and the sort of simple level, you know, when you haven't got many transactions or not really dealing with loads of transactions each month. And then actually, if anything else is wanted, the idea is to then step up to the starter subscription or the standard one. Obviously, the cost is very different at the different levels, but that's also where they're trying to keep the services slightly different as well to differentiate.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay, anyone else?
Yes, Louise, I think it's the same, probably the same question as Sam is in terms of linking to a tax return, a self-assessment. So if you've got income from different sources, presumably that's where tying this up with an accountant is the route to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's going to be ways that the accountant will be able to add further information.
Yeah.
Now, we also played around this year with using the new zero tax option, which again, only the accountant and bookkeeper can do. Now, with the zero tax option, you're able to link Xero subscriptions to the zero tax. But then at that point, that's where we can then add different items. So the way that we think it's going to work so far, but this is more down to HMRC as opposed to Xero, is that for the first 3 quarterly reports that they are going to ask for, that will be straight from Xero Go, for example, that will just record the income and the expenses. And then when it comes to the last report, that's where the bookkeeper or accountant could get involved, because that will be the full final report that will then allow to put in any extras, like the use of home office and, you know, all these extras that can be put in. That's how we imagine it will work so far, but that is all very much waiting on HMRC.
Yeah, okay. And the landlord, if you were doing this as a landlord using Xero Go, can you just remind me of what the scope is? I think you said a couple of properties would make it worthwhile.
Yeah, they say 1 to 2. We've got someone on there with 3. To be honest, I don't see why you couldn't use it for up to 5 or 6, because 9 times out of 10, if people have got sort of that many properties, the only thing that's really going to increase regularly is the rental income, which you've seen how easy it is to record the income anyway. And if there's any expenses, normally it's down to repairs that might be needed or any maintenance costs and stuff like that. So sometimes it doesn't, just because there's an additional property doesn't mean there's going to be loads of extra expenses. As long as people are comfortable using it for the number of transactions that they deal with, to be honest, I don't see that there should be a limit. I think that's just their suggestion as opposed to a rule. Yeah.
And did you mention that there was a certain amount of turnover that was associated doing
yes
property?
No, so basically the actual rule at the moment, so, and it's based on the HMRC's detailing. Again, what we'll do, Nivi will make a note now, we'll send the link within the follow-up email as well about the HMRC current update for 2026. At the moment, it is just a blanket for self-employed individuals and landlords with an income of more than £50,000. That will be, if it's between 30,000 and 50,000, then it'll be from 2027. So if it's up to 30,000, that's when it will be 2026. It is a combined income. So if you're a landlord and you've got something else you do, it's that figure amalgamated. So it is combined.
Louise, when you say income, is that profit or turnover? Are they calling income?
Turnover.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, turnover.
Right. I keep a spreadsheet at the moment, but maybe when I speak to you one-to-one, we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And on to the one-to-ones, what we'll do in the email, we'll make sure that obviously we just do a reminder to follow up so that we can book that one-to-one in. So we'll do a half-hour, either Zoom or phone call, whatever you would prefer. We can do that follow-up. What my advice would be is between now and then, if you are thinking of using Xero Go, get it set up on the app. Obviously, it's free of charge until the end of March anyway, so it's not going to cost you anything. And if you don't add the invoice option, there's no chance of it costing you anything extra on top of that. You can also then set a reminder for the end of March to cancel it if actually it's something that you don't feel that you're going to need. And then just have a play around and collate any questions. So if you have a look at how things are working, maybe think about some of the transactions that you deal with on a day-to-day basis and things you might be needing to enter. You can have a go at entering some of those things. It's very easy to delete the items as well, so it doesn't matter what you put on there. Have a play around, and then what we can do is go over any specific questions that you might have relating to that. At the same time, if you have a play around and you think I might need the sort of more advanced version, what we can do is have if we do a Zoom call, I can share my screen and I can show you some different functionalities, obviously of one of the other versions, just so that you've got that choice and you can make a choice there. All right. But thank you all so much for being on here. I really appreciate that. And also, on another note, as you all know, we were doing a charity donation. I know there's a lot of people that obviously cancer has affected either directly or indirectly through friends or family. We've actually so far, just from you all being here, raised £100 for Cancer Wise, which is amazing. So thank you all so much for that. That really does mean a lot. We will be offering this recording to others just so that they can see the demo and see any questions that have been answered. And of course, we'll still be doing the charity donations from each one. So if there is anyone that you know that you think that this might suit, by all means, please pass our details on, because we really want to make sure that we can help people make sure that they're set up like correctly for a start, and confidently as well. So thank you all so much. But we'll follow up with that email, and then we can book that one-to-one and go over any questions you might have.
Thanks, Louise. That was great.
All right. You're more than welcome. Take care, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks,
Thank
Louise.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.